The evening air was heavy with the scent of simmering garlic and onions as I stood in the kitchen, my mind racing. The house was unusually quiet, save for the occasional sizzle from the stove and the soft hum of the refrigerator. Daniel and I had just finished one of the most contentious conversations we'd had in years, and the tension lingered like a dark cloud over our home. Daniel entered the kitchen, his face set in a grim line. He took off his coat and draped it over the chair, not meeting my eyes. I was stirring the pasta, trying to distract myself from the gnawing feeling in my stomach. The argument had left me feeling unsettled, and I wasn't sure how to bridge the growing chasm between us. "I still don't get why you're making such a big deal out of this," Daniel said, his tone sharp as he walked over to the counter. "My parents need this house. They've been living in that old place for years, and it's falling apart. It's not just about the money." I tried to keep my voice steady. "It's not just about the money, Daniel. It's about our future. We've been saving for years to buy a home of our own, a place where we can build our lives and secure our children's future. You want to spend a large chunk of our savings on your parents' house, and I feel like you're not considering how this affects us." Daniel's jaw tightened, and he slammed his hand down on the counter. "You think I'm not considering us? I'm doing this for family. I thought you understood that family comes first." I felt a surge of frustration. Family comes first. I get that, but we're a family too, Daniel. This decision feels like it's pushing us aside. Why don't you ever involve me in these decisions? It's like I'm just a bystander in my own life. Daniel's face reddened, and he took a deep breath. "I didn't realize you felt that way," I thought. He stopped himself, running a hand through his hair. "I thought you would be supportive." I didn't think this would turn into such a huge issue. I turned away from him, unable to hold back my tears. "Supportive? You've made decisions that impact our family's future without even talking to me about it. I feel like you're making me feel like I'm not important." Daniel walked over and placed a hand on my shoulder, his voice softening. "Sophia, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel unimportant. It's just, I want to help my parents, but I didn't realize how this would affect you." I shook my head, wiping away a tear. "It's not just about helping your parents, Daniel. It's about us, our dreams, and our family. We need to be in this together, not just me supporting your decisions." The silence that followed was heavy and uncomfortable. The arguments we'd had were starting to feel like a relentless loop, each one ending with the same unresolved tension. As we finished dinner in strained silence, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were drifting further apart. That night, as I lay in bed, the quiet of our room felt oppressive. The familiar comfort of our home seemed to have been replaced by a growing distance between us. I knew that something needed to change, but I wasn't sure how we could bridge the gap that was widening with each passing day. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow over the bedroom. I sat at the edge of the bed, trying to steady my nerves before the day began. The argument from last night still echoed in my mind, leaving me feeling more isolated than ever. I knew I had to address it, but I wasn't sure how to start. As I made my way to the kitchen, the sound of Daniel's voice drifted from the living room. He was on the phone with his mother, discussing details about the house they wanted to buy. The conversation felt like another slap in the face. Here he was, prioritizing his parents, while I was left to feel like an outsider in my own home. "Yeah, Mom, we can have the paperwork ready by next week," Daniel said, sounding both enthusiastic and detached. "I'm making sure everything is set up, and I'll handle the rest." I walked into the kitchen and tried to make a show of busying myself with breakfast. Daniel finally ended the call and joined me, his face lighting up with a smile that did nothing to lift the cloud hanging over me. "Morning," he said, grabbing a cup of coffee. "Did you sleep well?" "Morning," I replied, forcing a smile. "I'm fine. I want to talk about last night." Daniel's expression shifted to one of concern. "Okay, what's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. It's just that you're making all these decisions about your parents' house without consulting me. It feels like my opinions and our future are being ignored." Daniel set his coffee cup down, his brow furrowing. "I didn't think it was a big deal. I thought you'd understand. It's not like we're throwing our money away. It's an investment." "It's not just about the money, Daniel," I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to remain calm. "It's about feeling included in the decisions that affect our family. I'm not asking for much, just a little consideration." Daniel sighed, looking frustrated. "I'm trying to help my parents. I didn't mean to exclude you. It's not like I'm making these decisions to hurt you." I shook my head, feeling the sting of his words. "It's not just about the house. It's about how you make me feel like my input doesn't matter. You didn't even talk to me about this before deciding. It's like my opinion is irrelevant." Daniel's face hardened. "You know that my parents are important to me. I thought you'd be supportive, not make this about you." My heart sank at his words. "This isn't about me. It's about us. I need to be part of these decisions. I want us to be a team, not just me following along with your plans." There was a tense silence as Daniel stared at me, his expression a mix of frustration and guilt. I could see the conflict in his eyes, but it felt like a wall had been built between us, one that was growing higher with each passing day. "I'm sorry if I hurt you," Daniel said finally, his voice softer. "I didn't mean for things to turn out like this. I just want to make sure my parents are taken care of." I could see the sincerity in his eyes, but it wasn't enough to erase the hurt I felt. "I understand that you want to help your parents, but we need to figure out a way to do that without disregarding our own needs and feelings." As Daniel nodded in agreement, I felt a small flicker of hope that we could find a way to address these issues together. Yet, as the day progressed, the sense of exclusion and conflict seemed to overshadow any potential resolution, leaving me wondering how we could mend the growing rift between us. The weight of the past few weeks had become unbearable. The constant arguments, the feeling of exclusion, and the lack of support from Daniel had left me emotionally drained. It was as if I was living in a storm, with no clear path to shelter. The day had started like any other, but the heaviness in my chest grew more intense with each passing hour. I found myself sitting on the edge of the bed, tears streaming down my face as I tried to compose myself. The children were at school, and the house was eerily quiet, amplifying the turmoil inside me. As I sat there, I knew I couldn't continue living like this. I needed to make a change, but the thought of leaving felt like a colossal step into the unknown. I glanced at the note I had started earlier, a letter to Daniel explaining my decision. My hand trembled as I wrote the final lines, pouring my heart out onto the page. Just as I finished, Daniel walked through the door, his face etched with fatigue. He had been working long hours, and I knew he was stressed, but it felt like an excuse rather than a reason. "Hey," he said, noticing my tear-streaked face. "What's wrong?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. "We need to talk." Daniel's brow furrowed in concern. "Is this about last night? I thought we were working through things." I nodded, my voice breaking as I spoke. "It's more than that. I feel like I'm drowning here, Daniel. I'm constantly put on the back burner while you focus on your parents and work. I don't know how much more I can take." Daniel looked at me with a mix of confusion and frustration. "I'm doing everything I can to make things better. What do you want from me?" "Support," I said, my voice rising with emotion. "I need to feel like you're on my side. I need to know that you value my opinions and feelings. Instead, I feel like I'm fighting a battle alone." Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know what you want me to do. I'm trying to balance everything, but it feels like nothing is ever enough." I stood up, tears still streaming down my face. "I've been thinking about leaving. I can't keep living like this. I'm taking the kids and starting over somewhere else." Daniel's face went pale, and he looked like he had been struck. "Leaving? You can't be serious. What about the kids? What about us?" I've already made up my mind, I said, feeling a mix of relief and anguish. I've written a letter explaining everything. I'm not doing this to hurt you, but I can't keep feeling like this. Daniel's voice softened, but there was a hint of desperation. Please, Sophia, don't do this. Let's figure something out. We can go to therapy or talk to someone. I don't want to lose you. The intensity of the moment hit me hard. Despite the anger and pain, I still loved him and didn't want to see our family fall apart. I don't know if talking will help anymore. I feel so alone and misunderstood. Daniel walked over to me, his expression pained. I know I haven't been the best partner lately. I'm sorry. But please, let's try to work through this together. I don't want to lose you or the kids. I looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. It was clear that he was struggling too, but the damage had been done. I need time to think. I need to figure out what's best for me and the kids. Daniel nodded, tears welling up in his eyes. I understand. Just, please don't make any final decisions yet. Let's at least try to find a solution together. As I looked at him, I realized that while his plea was heartfelt, the path forward was still uncertain. The emotional breakdown had laid bare the cracks in our relationship, and although there was a glimmer of hope, the road to healing felt daunting and unclear. After the confrontation with Daniel, I felt an overwhelming mix of relief and apprehension. The decision to leave had been agonizing, but now it was time to face the reality of starting over. I gathered the essentials for myself and the kids, trying to keep the process as smooth as possible for their sake. I dialed Olivia's number, my hands shaking slightly as I waited for her to pick up. It had been years since we'd spoken regularly, but I knew she was someone I could trust. Olivia, hi, it's Sophia, I said when she answered. My voice was shaky, betraying my anxiety. Sophia, it's so good to hear from you. What's going on? Olivia's voice was warm and familiar, a comfort amidst my turmoil. I'm sorry for calling out of the blue, but I need your help. I'm in a difficult situation, and I don't have anywhere else to turn, I explained, my voice cracking. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Of course, Sophia. What happened? I took a deep breath, recounting the recent events, the growing tension with Daniel, my decision to leave, and the emotional breakdown. Olivia listened attentively, offering comforting words and reassurances. Come stay with me, she said finally. I have plenty of space, and you and the kids are always welcome here. It'll give you a chance to catch your breath and figure things out. Tears of relief welled up in my eyes. Thank you, Olivia. I don't know what I'd do without you. It's no trouble at all, she said gently. We'll get through this together. And I know a great divorce lawyer who can help you with the legal side of things. I'll introduce you to him when you get here. As I packed up the last of our things, a mixture of gratitude and nervousness settled over me. The kids were excited about staying with Aunt Olivia, not fully understanding the gravity of the situation, but sensing a change. When we arrived at Olivia's home, I was struck by how comforting it felt. Her place was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the coldness I had experienced recently. Olivia greeted us with open arms and quickly made us feel at home. Later that day, Olivia introduced me to Marcus, the divorce lawyer she had recommended. He was professional and empathetic, and his demeanor instantly put me at ease. We sat in Olivia's cozy living room, discussing the legal aspects of my situation. Marcus reviewed my case, asking about our assets, custody arrangements, and any financial concerns. His approach was thorough but reassuring. Your primary focus should be on securing a fair arrangement for you and the kids, Marcus advised. We'll work on dividing assets and setting up a custody plan that ensures their well-being. It's crucial to approach this methodically. I nodded, feeling a bit more hopeful. I appreciate your help, Marcus. I just want to make sure my kids are taken care of and that I can start rebuilding our lives. Marcus smiled. We'll take it step by step. You're not alone in this. As I left the meeting, I felt a glimmer of hope. The road ahead was still uncertain, But having Olivia's support and Marcus's guidance gave me a sense of direction. For the first time in weeks, I felt a small but significant spark of optimism. That evening, as I tucked the kids into bed, they chatted excitedly about their new temporary home. Their innocence and enthusiasm provided a bittersweet reminder of why I had made this choice. Despite the upheaval, I was determined to create a positive environment for them. Olivia joined me for a quiet cup of tea after the kids had fallen asleep. We sat in her kitchen, the warmth of the room a stark contrast to the coldness of the past few weeks. "You're doing great, Sophia," Olivia said softly, placing a comforting hand on mine. "It's not going to be easy, but you're taking the right steps." I looked at her, feeling the deep sense of gratitude. "Thank you for everything. I don't know how to repay you." Olivia shook her head with a smile. "Just focus on taking care of yourself and the kids. That's all the thanks I need." As I sat there with Olivia, I felt a renewed sense of hope. The future was still uncertain, but with her support and the new beginnings ahead, I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The days following our move to Olivia's home were a blur of activity and adjustment. Between unpacking, settling into a new routine, and preparing for my first meeting with Marcus, I found myself grappling with a complex mix of hope and anxiety. The future felt like a vast, uncertain expanse, and though I was determined to forge a better path, the road ahead was daunting. Olivia's home, while a haven, also highlighted the stark contrast between the stability I once knew and the uncertainty I now faced. As I sat in the small office area she had kindly set up for me, I tried to focus on organizing the paperwork Marcus had given me. The legal jargon and financial details were overwhelming, but I knew they were crucial for securing my future and that of my children. One morning, Olivia joined me for a coffee in her kitchen, where I was trying to sort through some documents. Her presence was a comforting reminder that I wasn't alone in this. "How's it going?" Olivia asked, her voice laced with concern as she poured us both a cup of coffee. I took a sip, trying to steady my nerves. "It's a lot to handle. I'm trying to get everything in order before my meeting with Marcus. The paperwork is more complicated than I expected." Olivia sat down across from me, her expression sympathetic. "It's overwhelming, but you're doing great. Marcus will guide you through it. Just remember, this is a new chapter for you, and it's okay to feel a bit lost right now." I nodded, trying to focus on the positives. "I know. I just wish I had a clearer picture of what's next. There are so many variables: custody arrangements, financial settlements, finding a new place to live. It's hard not to feel anxious." "You're taking all the right steps," Olivia reassured me. "One step at a time. Have you thought about what you want for yourself and the kids once everything is settled?" I sighed, looking out the window. "I want a stable environment for them, a place where they can feel secure and happy. And for me, I guess I just want a chance to rebuild, to find some peace and perhaps even start over professionally." Olivia gave me an encouraging smile. "That sounds like a good plan. You've already shown a lot of strength, and I know you'll find your way. Just keep focusing on what's best for you and the kids." Later that week, the day of my meeting with Marcus arrived. I was a bundle of nerves, my thoughts racing as I drove to his office. I took deep breaths, trying to calm myself before walking through the door. Marcus greeted me with a reassuring smile and guided me to his office. As we settled in, he began reviewing my case in detail. His calm demeanor and clear explanations helped ease some of my anxiety. "So, Sophia," Marcus began, "we need to go over the specifics of the custody arrangements and financial settlements. This is where we start to build a plan that works for you and your children." I nodded, trying to stay focused. "What are the key things I need to consider?" Marcus pulled out some documents and began outlining the important aspects. "We'll need to address child support, visitation rights, and division of assets. It's important to establish a fair arrangement for both you and Daniel. This will ensure that your children's needs are prioritized." The conversation was detailed and often technical, but Marcus's approach made it more manageable. We discussed different scenarios, and he offered practical advice on how to handle each situation. After the meeting, I felt a mix of relief and apprehension. Marcus had given me a clearer sense of the process and what to expect, but there was still so much to navigate. Returning to Olivia's home, I found her in the living room, waiting with a concerned expression. "How did it go?" she asked as I walked in. "It went well," I replied, trying to sound more confident than I felt. Marcus was very helpful. We went over the key issues, and he gave me a better understanding of what's ahead. Olivia smiled, reaching out to give me a comforting hug. "That's great to hear. One step at a time, right?" "Yeah," I said, hugging her back. "One step at a time." As I looked around Olivia's home, I felt a sense of gratitude for her support and the new beginnings that lay ahead. The future was still uncertain, and the challenges were far from over, but I was determined to face them with resilience. With Olivia's support and Marcus's guidance, I was starting to feel a glimmer of hope for a better future. That night, as I tucked the kids into bed, I reflected on the uncertain journey ahead. Despite the challenges and fears, I was ready to take control of my life and create a new, brighter path for my family. The weeks following my meeting with Marcus were a whirlwind of legal battles and emotional strain. The divorce proceedings had officially begun, and each day seemed to bring a new challenge. The once familiar life I'd known with Daniel felt like a distant memory as I navigated through a maze of legal paperwork, custody disputes, and financial negotiations. My initial hope for a quick resolution was soon tempered by the reality of the legal process. The complexities of dividing assets, arranging for child support, and determining visitation rights were more demanding than I had anticipated. Despite Marcus's guidance, the emotional toll was heavy. One afternoon, Marcus and I sat in his office, reviewing the latest developments. His office, filled with bookshelves and legal texts, felt like a sanctuary amidst the chaos. "So, Sophia," Marcus began, looking up from the documents spread across his desk, "we've received Daniel's counteroffer regarding the custody arrangement and financial settlements. There are some points of contention we need to address." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on me. "What are the main issues?" Marcus glanced at the papers. "Daniel is proposing a visitation schedule that's less favorable than what we had hoped for, and he's also challenging the division of assets, particularly with regard to the house and savings." I felt a pang of frustration. I thought we were trying to find a fair solution. "It feels like he's being difficult just for the sake of it." Marcus nodded sympathetically. "These negotiations can get contentious, especially when emotions are involved. It's important to stay focused on your priorities and not get bogged down by the specifics that are less critical." I agreed, though it was hard not to feel disheartened. "What's the next step?" "We'll need to respond to his counteroffer with a proposal of our own. It's a matter of finding common ground and compromising where possible," Marcus explained. In the following days, I worked with Marcus to draft a revised proposal. The process was exhausting, and I found myself constantly second-guessing the decisions we were making. Olivia remained my steadfast support during this time, offering encouragement and a listening ear. One evening, as I was working on the proposal, Olivia joined me in the living room. She could see the stress etched on my face. "Hey, Sophia," Olivia said gently. "How's it going with the legal stuff?" I rubbed my temples, feeling overwhelmed. "It's tough. We're trying to find a compromise, but Daniel's demands seem unreasonable. It's like he's not even considering what's best for the kids." Olivia sat down beside me. "I know it's hard, but remember, you're doing this for them. You have to stay strong and focused on what's best for your family." I sighed, trying to take her advice to heart. "I just want this to be over. I want to move on and start rebuilding our lives." Olivia nodded. "And you will. This is just a bump in the road. You're making the right choices, and you're not alone in this." The following week, we presented our revised proposal to Daniel's legal team. The negotiations were tense, with both sides standing firm on their positions. Daniel's lawyer, Mr. Thompson, was a seasoned professional who seemed to take pleasure in prolonging the process. During one particularly heated exchange, Mr. Thompson challenged our proposal. "I must say, Sophia's demands are quite high. Daniel is already making significant concessions. It's only fair that we find a middle ground." I felt a surge of frustration but tried to remain composed. "I'm not asking for anything unreasonable. I'm simply seeking what's fair given our circumstances. My primary concern is ensuring a stable environment for my children." Marcus interjected calmly. "Let's remember that the goal here is to reach a resolution that works for both parties and prioritizes the well-being of the children." After several rounds of negotiation, we managed to reach a tentative agreement. The custody arrangement was less ideal than I had hoped, but it was a start. The financial settlement was more balanced, though it still required some compromise on my part. As I left the meeting, I felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. The legal battles were far from over, but I had taken significant steps towards securing a resolution. That evening, Olivia and I sat on her porch, watching the sunset as we reflected on the day's events. "So, how are you feeling about everything?" Olivia asked. I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "It's been a tough road, and there's still a long way to go. But I'm hopeful. We've made progress, and that's something." Olivia smiled, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "You've done an amazing job navigating this. And remember, no matter what happens, you have a support system here. You're not alone." I appreciated her words more than she knew. Despite the ongoing challenges and uncertainties, I felt a renewed sense of determination. With Olivia's support and Marcus's expertise, I was beginning to see a glimmer of hope for the future. The path ahead was still unclear, but I was ready to face it with resilience and courage. The dust was beginning to settle after the intense legal battles. The divorce was officially finalized, and while the resolution wasn't perfect, it was a step toward rebuilding my life. I felt a strange mix of liberation and trepidation as I prepared to embrace this new chapter. The process had been grueling, but now I was ready to reclaim my life and move forward with a sense of purpose. Olivia's guest room had become my sanctuary. It was a small but cozy space, filled with light and comfort. As I looked around, I felt a sense of calm for the first time in months. The transition from my old life to this new one was both daunting and exhilarating. One morning, I found Olivia in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. The smell of freshly brewed coffee and warm toast filled the air. She looked up from the counter with a bright smile. "Good morning, Sophia. How are you feeling today?" Olivia asked, her tone cheerful. I took a seat at the table, feeling a mix of anticipation and nervousness. "Good morning, Olivia. I'm feeling a bit anxious but also hopeful. It's strange, but I think I'm finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel." Olivia set a cup of coffee in front of me and took a seat across from me. "That's great to hear. I know this whole process has been tough, but you're making real progress. Do you have any plans for the day?" I stirred my coffee thoughtfully. "Yes, I'm meeting with a career counselor later. I want to start focusing on my career and finding a job that aligns with my skills and interests. It's time for a fresh start." Olivia's eyes sparkled with encouragement. "That sounds like a fantastic plan. I'm sure you'll do great. You've always been so driven and talented. This is your chance to shine in a new way." After breakfast, I made my way to the career counselor's office. The counselor, Elaine, was warm and welcoming, and she immediately put me at ease. Her office was filled with motivational quotes and career guides, creating a positive and supportive environment. "So, Sophia," Elaine began as we settled into our seats, "tell me about your career goals and what you're looking for in this new chapter of your life." I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. I've always been passionate about project management and organizational development. I want to find a position where I can use my skills to make a meaningful impact. After everything I've been through, I'm ready to embrace new challenges and opportunities. Elaine nodded, making notes as I spoke. That's a great direction. Let's work on updating your resume and crafting a strong cover letter. We'll also discuss strategies for networking and finding job opportunities that align with your goals. I felt a sense of relief and enthusiasm as Elaine guided me through the process. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was taking control of my future. Later that week, I had a chance to reconnect with my children, Emma and Jake. The custody arrangement allowed for regular visits, and seeing them again filled me with a renewed sense of purpose. I wanted to ensure that they felt secure and loved, despite the changes in our lives. One Saturday afternoon, we met at a local park. The sun was shining, and the air was filled with the sounds of laughter and play. As Emma and Jake ran around, their laughter brought a smile to my face. Emma, with her bright eyes and infectious energy, ran up to me, holding out a flower she'd picked. "Mom, look what I found. It's for you." I knelt down to her level, accepting the flower with a grateful smile. "Thank you, sweetheart. It's beautiful. I'm so happy to be spending this time with you." Jake, who was busy climbing on the jungle gym, called out, "Mom, come play with us." I joined them, letting go of my worries and immersing myself in the moment. As we played, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for these small, precious moments. They reminded me of why I was fighting so hard to build a better future for us. That evening, Olivia and I sat on the porch, reflecting on the day. "How was the park?" Olivia asked, handing me a cup of tea. "It was wonderful," I said, savoring the warmth of the tea. Seeing the kids so happy and carefree was exactly what I needed. It reminded me of why I need to keep moving forward. Olivia smiled, her support evident in her eyes. "I'm so glad to hear that. You're doing an incredible job navigating all of this. It's a tough journey, but you're making it through with grace and strength." I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of peace settle over me. "Thank you, Olivia. Your support means more to me than you know. I'm ready to take on this new chapter and make the most of it." As the sun set and the sky turned a soft shade of pink, I felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I was ready to face it with resilience and optimism. Reclaiming my life wasn't just about starting over. It was about embracing the opportunities and challenges that lay ahead with a heart full of hope and a spirit ready to thrive.